Starting New Year's Day, the minimum wage goes up to $20.76 an hour, and Seattle restaurants will no longer be able to deduct the $2.72 tip credit from the total.
All of you.
So like for me, I'm looking at $150,000 worth of increases in payroll. Where am I going to come up with that?
And now we're hearing from the Seattle City Council
to resolve the catastrophic impact on drivers, restaurants, and customers that we've been hearing about since implementation. So that
we've seen an unprecedented number of restaurants around the city are not making it right now.
City data shows Seattle's homelessness population has increased about 26% from 2022 to 2024 and is an issue Mayor Wilson ran on during her campaign.
A statement from DoorDash says, quote, Seattle City Council also refused to hear from community members, from restaurants to customers to faith leaders to communities of color who oppose this extreme policy that will dramatically increase costs on customers, reduce orders for merchants, and threaten earnings for Dashers.
James Beard, nominated chef, leaves Seattle, going back to Bainbridge Island. That's where he's got another 3 restaurants. He's citing poor business environment. By poor business environment, he means no foot traffic because there's nobody in downtown Seattle doing business anymore. And he's also paying $30 an hour to his employees. He just can't make a go of it. There's a number of nuggets in this story. Let's cover them. Here we go. So we're going to sift through a handful of stories here. Let's get the stories up so you can see them. All right. My Northwest, James Beard nominated chef. James Beard Award. That's really important in the restaurant business, in the chef business. I have not visited either of these restaurants here, but I haven't visited most restaurants either. Most restaurants here in Bellevue, Washington, unless it's my buddy Dan Flitch's bar off the rails or the Savage Moose up in Kenmore. I'm not going out to restaurants a ton. I'm just not doing it. It's pretty expensive. And I don't know. I just don't feel the desire to, let's go out to a restaurant again. It's fun sometimes, though, right? James Beard Award nominated chef Brendan McGill has closed his final 2 Seattle restaurants and is leaving the city over a poor business environment. After operating the city for more than a decade, he shuttered the Cafe Hitchcock and Oyster Cellar May 31st, just a few days ago, going back to Bainbridge Island, where that's where his empire is. When I look through the last couple of years of what we've been through, it feels a little bleak. You close down a couple of businesses that you still have the leases on. And this isn't the first reiteration of kind of changing business here for McGill. He's changed these restaurants a number of times already, trying to figure out, hey, what's going to stick here? Bottom line is, you just don't have people doing the amount of business in downtown that you once did. That, which is nationwide, there's no question about that. It's nationwide. All the downtown cores are suffering, right? And so you've got a situation, you layer that, which is absolutely devastating to business in the downtown cores, on top of Socialist Seattle's minimum hourly wage for its restaurant workers is so high, he's paying $30 an hour. You're not paying that here in Bellevue. You're not paying that down in Tacoma. And we'll touch on that in a second. So when I look back through the last couple of years, bleak, but when I look at the whole arc of it, I feel really pleased with what we put forth. Yeah, but you're still shutting your restaurants down, and that sucks. It's an indication of what's going on in Seattle, right? It's just can't make a go of it. As the owner of Hitchcock Restaurant Group, McGill will continue to operate 3 restaurants and a new wholesale company on Bainbridge Island. Restaurants are Cafe Hitchcock, Bruciato, and Kingfisher. He noted that Seattle is no longer a no-brainer for doing business. Yeah, we've been reporting on that for a long time. It's the opposite of a no-brainer. It is a no-brainer to leave Seattle. But he said he's not on board with the idea that Seattle is on the decline. Well, that's not exactly what you glean from all the articles kind of putting this whole thing together. I'm not sure that my love for Seattle, my long history of being here, can justify unsound business decisions at this point. Love Seattle. A lot of people love Seattle. It isn't the physical aspect of Seattle. It is leadership. It is the nut jobs who vote people in that are socialists. Just absolutely. And then, you got business decisions by the city council. Hey, let's push minimum wage to the moon and we'll just see what happens. Hey, let's do a payroll tax on big business. Hey, let's do a millionaire tax at the state level. The smarter business, this is nugget number one right here. The smarter business move would be to open in a place whose business environment is rolling. It's going. It's got something for it. Like Bellevue, where I'm sitting, or even Tacoma. Man, when you are talking about I should go to Tacoma instead of Seattle, that's a nugget right there. From an experienced restaurateur, an experienced chef, should have gone to Tacoma. Could still make it go. They ain't paying $30 an hour in Tacoma, I tell you that. McGill mentioned a few other favorable markets for expansion. Spokane, Boise, and Edmonds. Edmonds is up north, just across the Kingston-Snohomish County border. But Spokane, he's talking about Spokane. He's just shutting stuff down in downtown Seattle. He's talking about Spokane. Tough go for anybody in the restaurant business, right? Just a tough go. They're getting hit from so many different angles, and there's just not enough bodies out there going to restaurants like they used to. When you look at the cost of gas and you look at how expensive it is going out to a restaurant now, it is wildly outrageous. Just getting there, right? Just getting there, you're like, oh, huh. And then all the meal sizes have been downgraded. It's like you get these nice restaurants, you get these tiny little things that look great for Instagram, look great for your culinary display. But in reality, you walk away and you're like, damn, I need to go through the drive-thru to get a real meal. That wasn't enough. I got like 2 grams of protein in that bad boy. I'm hungry. We just ate. I'm hungry. In 2010, McGill opened his first restaurant in Bainbridge Island. 4 years later, expanded to Seattle. He's named a James Beard Award semifinalist for Best Chef Northwest category. 2016, he opened the Exchange Building in downtown Seattle, the 2 restaurants that he's talking about. And let's take a look at where these are. Now, this is also really interesting to me. This location here is, let me go out a little bit. Yeah, let's go out just a little bit here. So here's our restaurant, right? Here's our 2 restaurants, same building. Here's our restaurants. They are right off the traffic pattern for the ferry system. These are ferries. Got a whole bunch of ferries. That's your main ferry dock in downtown Seattle. And then you've got the Lumen Field where they're going to play the World Cup, and you've got T-Mobile Park right below that. And that's a few blocks to the south. And this location here is in the heart of the financial center of Seattle. Now you go a little bit further to the north and you get into our Pike and Pine debacle on 3rd Avenue. So is it rough? Yeah, but it's also the financial district. So, you've got private security at every single building because that's what you have to have when you got a bunch of nut jobs running around doing drugs, stealing stuff, right? So McGill noted that foot traffic downtown has not been what it was in prior years. That's all over the country because work from home, right? Many neighboring retailers choosing to depart, supporting his view. Across from the Exchange Building, several retailers, including Starbucks, UPS, Contour Nightclub, Fado, Irish Pub, and Quiznos. And that's in the last 6 years. Just major companies are like, nope, can't do it, can't make a go of it. Just, this isn't a good deal. Some places like near the waterfront or Seattle Convention Center are probably better positioned now than before. All right. But you can only hang on for so long. You can only claw onto your position for so long, and you're spending capital covering overhead. And you get to a point where you're like, I got to pull the trigger on this. This is a no-go. This is no longer viable. And he says, when you visit Seattle, that flow has changed. The old thing of people strolling First Avenue to Pioneer Square where you visit Seattle, that flow has changed because you might get killed in Pioneer Square by a whacked out homeless dude on meth and fentanyl carrying a sword, possibly a machete, at least a large knife, right? There are winners and losers with the way things got shuffled. I don't know a lot of winners in the downtown core. Property owners, no. Businesses, no. Employees of businesses that got fired, no. The city is bringing in way less tax revenue, no. So where's the winners? Where are the winners? I want to know. I want to know. Asking for a friend. So here we go. Headline. Downtown Seattle stunner. Like, yeah, what happened? Now, what I would say is good for this guy for sticking it out this long. I mean, he's got other options, and he's hedging his bets to try and, hey, when's this thing going to turn around? When is this going to, when is this just going to go? McGill had been reshaping his restaurant group for several years, trimming higher-end experiments and leaning into more casual all-day cafes because the higher end, the economics aren't there. Said people just wanted it to be casual, a shift that helps explain both the earlier Seabird closure and his recent strategy of consolidation. McGill told Seattle Times he felt like the last man standing for 5 years. Because this has been since the pandemic. Since the pandemic in 2020, a ton of businesses that were undercapitalized just boop, closed. We had all the rioting. We had Chop Chaz. We had just, all kinds of crazy stuff. And downtown has always been a little, it's grungy, right? It's literally grungy. Seattle being home for grunge. And as a result, if you have a business downtown, extra tough go. And then Seattle City Council has decided that, workers of the world unite. Let's bump up that minimum wage and we'll just see how this goes. But it's not going well. So he felt like the last man standing for 5 years. All right, that's fair enough. That's another little nugget. In downtown Seattle, and the number of fine dining, numbers on fine dining often no longer work in the current market. Makes absolute sense. Absolute sense. You don't have enough people coming in, and what you got to pay just to keep the lights going, keep the lights on, keep the gas to your grill going. Not there. He still holds the downtown leases and may revisit his footprint if office traffic comes back. Man, I do not see that happening anytime soon in any of these markets. Why all of a sudden would businesses go, you know what, let's pay for a lot of really expensive real estate so we can be in the game in downtown? Well, they've already proven that they don't need that, and the capital expenditure on that real estate, it's unnecessary. But for now, the plan is to consolidate on Bainbridge. For downtown diners and office workers, closures are another sign of an uneven recovery. Uneven. What exactly does that mean? I mean, I know what they're saying. Oh, it's been a bumpy ride. But uneven recovery. You either have a recovery or you don't. We do not have a recovery in downtown Seattle. We have something going the other way. Vacant office space has been going up. Businesses closing. Don't have a lot of new businesses opening up because people look around and go, geez, I want to be surrounded by a bunch of empty space. Where's all the workers? They're working at home in the burbs. That's what's doing well. So here's that Seattle Times article. Cafe Hitchcock and Oyster Cellar close. McGill said this week he waited for as long as possible for downtown workers to return to their cubicles before closing his 2 downtown businesses. He believes the days of packed happy hours and power lunches may not return in this business corridor if vacancy remains high in office towers. And if street conditions remain the same way that they are in Seattle, combined with no foot traffic, kind of a death knell for restaurants. Unless you've got something that is just super, super inexpensive to operate. Without a game or a concert nearby, you might have a $200 day. McGill told the Seattle Times on Tuesday, I'm paying my staff $30 an hour for 8 hours just to be there. Just opening the doors was too expensive, even without the cost of everything else. Remote work pinched the bottom line for dining rooms that rely on tenants to buy coffee and breakfast sandwiches and expense account dinners. This is the downtown where, everybody used to come in to do business, and then you go out after and you have a business dinner. Let's celebrate closing that transaction. Let's go have some fine dining and we'll do some drinking. That kind of deal. It's not there anymore because those businesses are by and large gone. They're just gone. Even with bare bones staffing, McGill said Tuesday that it's hard to make the math work to keep the lights on at a restaurant in downtown. McGill wagers that downtown restaurants will survive only if employers and employees return to office buildings. That ain't happening. So then everybody's like, well, let's just turn the office buildings into residential things. So you're going to have a bunch of people living in the downtown that it takes a certain breed to live in downtown. Know what I'm saying? And you're not going to have any businesses because they're not really required to be in the downtown core anymore. You don't have the support businesses. So what do you have? Just a bunch of people walking around, and the homeless, drug addicted homeless. You got them in the droves, trying right now to push out the homeless right in Seattle. There's rumors that that Seattle has been busing the homeless over to Moses Lake, east of the mountains. The other rumor I heard a couple of weeks ago was, we're busing them to, I think it was Bremerton, over on the across Puget Sound. We're busing them to Bremerton. I don't think that's happening. What is happening is the homeless are being pushed out of the downtown core. They're being pushed out from here, which is where the games are being played. The World Cup is being played, being pushed out to here. They're just basically being pushed out. And that's kind of normal because when we had Taylor Swift and baseball all-star game, it's like same weekend. That was some tremendous planning, or back-to-back weekends, whatever that was. Somebody else, like Tim McGraw or somebody too, came to town during that time period. They basically just, swept the homeless away. Everything's great here, so that they look good. For those relatives coming in from out of town, right? Hey, city looking good, folks. Doing the exact same thing right now for the World Cup. So that's what's missing, he said. The daily pulse of people coming in and out of the city to do commerce. Working from home has changed the landscape forever. If you're in the central business district, it is a death blow. Not a shocker. Not a shocker. McGill pivoted from Bar Solea to an oyster bar in 2024. The latter required as few as 2 workers at any given time. I'm right here. 1 to shuck oysters and 1 to pour drinks. And even with that bare bones staffing, this is another nugget. McGill said Tuesday that it's hard to make the math work to keep the lights on at a restaurant in downtown. 2 employees. That's insanity. And he can't, and he's got a great reputation. He's a good chef. He's good business mind, but you can only go so far with that if the people aren't around that are going to be coming in that normally would. Now, this location in downtown Seattle back in the day prior to the pandemic, it was thriving. It was going. I mean, this was a hot spot within the financial district of downtown Seattle. All that traffic coming off the ferries, people walking around. Yeah, you had homeless, but when the pandemic hit, and the CDC said, don't clear out those homeless encampments because it'll spread the Rona around. And so all the downtown cores kind of got whacked because the homeless realized, hey, they're no longer clearing us out. It's go time. Bring in the couches. Remember, I did podcasts on, there were swimming pools being created in the homeless encampments. Swimming pools. It was insanity. Because nobody was pushing out the homeless. And in the downtown cores, I remember walking around downtown Seattle going, wow, it probably would have been 2001. There was one park that was next to City Hall, to King County Courthouse. And it was rough. City Hall Park, I think it's called. And it was just a bunch of misfits and drug addicts and criminals and people just lurking around. You know, when you see a fake AI and you think, wow, that is a really dark, disturbing image, it was like that. And that was because we weren't pushing out the homeless, and criminals were literally setting up tents and running big operations out of those tents right in the downtown core, something they'd never been able to do like that. But with a tent, hey, it's homeless dude. Who wants to go into a homeless dude's tent? Nobody. So they could store all kinds of illegal stuff in there. And they had open criminal businesses going. And since it's Seattle, nobody says boo, do they? Oh, it's just, the enterprising urban campers, they're so active. We hope that they're doing some good for the community. Yeah, they're just stealing stuff and selling it, doing drugs, breaking into cars, trafficking women. Not all of those issues contributed to these two restaurants closing. But the overall downtown market has gone the wrong way, and it's gone the wrong way for a lot of big cities. A couple of cities that have really been impacted have been Portland, San Francisco as well. San Francisco is taking some different approaches, and Seattle. Portland, Seattle, absolute downtown dumpster fires. If you follow this podcast, make sure you're subscribed. If you follow this podcast, I cover all the big buildings. We just had one going, the building in downtown Seattle. It went for 54% off of its purchase price in 2019. That is how much this commercial market has dropped in value. Over half, 54%. Just boom, not there. Because you don't have the employees there. You don't have the small little businesses there. Things aren't thriving. And when you have the death knell of a minimum wage for your industry, that makes it so numbers can't pencil, because Seattle is based on socialist principles. And it's doing its very best to push out business like there's no tomorrow, to the point where you've got like former Christine Gregoire, our former governor, saying, what are you guys doing? You guys got a real spending problem. You don't have an income problem. You got a real spending problem, and you're driving out business. I said early on, we're going to really regret not electing Bruce Harrell. And that has been very accurate. When Bruce Harrell is viewed as the glory days relative to where we are now, with businesses closing, not a lot of new businesses opening up, businesses shedding employees. You got Amazon, you got Facebook, you got Meta, you've got all the big players going, we're either out of here, Seattle, we're going to Bellevue, we're going to Redmond, or we're out of here in general. In general, because Washington State, that's something that, none of these Seattle articles get that broader picture of, hey, maybe it's just not a good idea to run a business in Washington State. Given the outlook, given the economic outlook, is this a good idea to be in Washington State? Those are the things that are being worked around in business owners' idea, because the overall outlook is such that we're not going in the right direction. Washington State still has I think it's the second strongest economy in the United States. Washington State. We're going off all those tech fumes. We're still going. We've still got that. But for how long? That's the question, right? That's the question. Those are questions that I address daily here on the News for Reasonable People podcast. So make sure you're subscribed. Hit that notification.